What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So I know what you're thinking. Why are you calling this the Plastic Podcast? Well, just to, I guess, kind of give a little background. Of course, whenever you say anything that disagrees with a majority of the fan base, you tend to get called a plastic fan. So I'm just going to talk about some things. Some of this might be stuff that a lot of people disagree with, so just call me a plastic fan. That's fine. It's not like I've been supporting this club since I was a kid, you know. It's okay. Do whatever you want. I don't care. It's the internet. I get called a lot worse every day. But yeah, so let's talk about some stuff that I wanted to, because of course with Chelsea coming back in, I have managed to watch every game, and we've done pretty well since returning. I was really worried whenever the break first happened because we were on such a good run. We were doing so well, and then the break happens. I'm thinking, there goes our momentum. But no, we've come back, look strong, and there's quite a few reasons why I think that is. But first, I just want to talk about a few different story elements, and just a few different discussion points that I feel like are worth talking about because it's something that I feel like has been pretty prevalent over the past few weeks. But anyways, starting off, of course, probably the first thing I'm going to put in the title is Rudiger versus Christensen. Now, after the West Ham game, I was really worried, but we bounced back fine since then. Little nervous at Palace. But yeah, West Ham game was our worst performance since returning from the break. So I just wanted to talk about the Rudiger versus Christensen problem because after that game, there were some players that were getting called out, lambasted for their performance. And yeah, there weren't a lot of players that had a good game that day. I would say Pulisic and Willian were probably two of the ones that I would say were consistently performing well during that match. But yeah, let's talk about Rudiger and Christensen because they both had a pretty bad game. However, for some reason, the fan base just went after Rudiger with a vengeance. And I don't really know why, because he's been one of our more solid players throughout the year. You know, he's had a couple bad games here and there, but for the most part, like, he's been good. He's been our rock in the back. Mainly because he has great physical capability that allows him to make up for most of the mistakes he does, if he does make one. I think him and Van Dijk are very similar that way, where they both do make mistakes and they both do make dumb decisions, but they're very good physically. Just Van Dijk, I think, is better than him physically, so that's why a lot of people think he's like the greatest defender ever, because he's probably one of the most physical defenders I've ever seen. But yeah, so it was weird to me that so many people were calling for Rudiger to just be sold after the West Ham game. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, he did make some really bad decisions. You know, the one where he got his feet caught up under him and he kicked it out for a corner that they scored on. And then, of course, his decision to let Yarmolenko inside on his left. Yeah, he's left-footed. You don't let him in. However, nobody was talking about Christensen's performance. I mean, there were a few here and there, but nobody was really bad-mouthing Christensen. And in my opinion, he had just as bad of a game. And the weird thing is, Christensen throughout this season has been kind of off and on. Honestly, throughout his Chelsea career, he's been kind of off and on. You know, he's had some good runs in the team where he's looked really good, and people calling him the next John Terry. And he's had some games where people were like, yeah, don't play him, please. Because he's kind of a spotty defender. He doesn't really have that consistency, and a lot of it comes down to his decisions too. But the difference is he doesn't have the same physical capabilities that Rudiger does, so his decisions catch him out a lot more. But the weird thing about it is, okay, yeah, Rudiger made some really big slip-ups, but where are all the people talking about the fact that I don't think Christensen completed one forward pass that game? Like, I can remember clearly 6 or 7 times where he's looking to play it forward to somebody in the midfield, plays right to the West Ham player, and now counterattack right back at us. That happened several times. And then on top of that, for the second goal, you know, Rudiger, Antonio, it's so weird to think, you know, this guy's Michael Antonio Rudiger, mixes me up a lot. But Rudiger and Antonio are fighting at the top of the box. Antonio lays it off and then falls looking for the foul. And then Rudiger steps back. Antonio stands back up. Christensen, ball watching. He's over here while Antonio is just running right behind him. Ball comes across. Christensen, no idea where he is. And he's, as Piliqueta has his own man, that should be Christensen guarding him. That should be Christensen tracking him. But he doesn't. And he misses man quite a few times. In fact, very similar to the Palace game. Once Antonio realized, oh, I have a beat on this guy, they started just focusing on him because they knew, yeah, Antonio's got the better of him. But nobody's talking about that. Nobody was discussing the fact that Christensen had just as bad of a game as Rudiger did, and then Rudiger gets the axe. So the next game, go to, was it Watford? Watford. Next game we go to Watford, didn't really have much to do. So everybody's just like, still not talking about it. I'm thinking, no, he's still an issue. Watford just didn't really attack us. They left the one guy up top. Forget, was it Deeney? Yeah. They just left Deeney up top, and that was it. But Deeney didn't have any help. So we were never really put under any pressure. But then Palace, now you've got Benteke up there putting a lot of pressure, and then Zaha and, what's his name? Was it Ayew? Was it Jordan Ayew? I think that was the other one. But they started putting the three of them up there. Benteke started having people to lay off to that Deeney didn't have in the Watford game. And now all of a sudden, now Christensen's decisions are being highlighted again. Because he doesn't know when to step. He doesn't know when to go out and when to stay. And so, yeah, sure enough, it gets really highlighted near the end, didn't it? The second goal, I mean, good God, that was embarrassing. And then the one right near, actually the two right near the end. Because the one came off the post, and if, thank goodness it didn't go right to, I think it was Max Meyer that was standing there. If it went right to him, nobody was on him, because Christensen was, again, watching. But then the one that Zuma had to come in and just make a clearing challenge on Benteke, I mean, again, Christensen's stepping out when he shouldn't be, and then gets caught, and now they're in behind him. So that's 2 games now where he's done this. And yet, again, I mean, some people are saying, yeah, Christensen needs to be taken off after that. He's really bad. But nobody's having the same reaction that they did to Rudiger's performance against West Ham. And that's what's kind of weird to me. And, you know, I know everything going on right now. I know all of the stuff in the world. I know what some people are probably going to say the issue is. I don't think that's it. I think for some reason, there's just like this frustration with some people that they see the clear and obvious mistakes, but they don't see the more technical mistakes that Christensen makes. They see the mistakes that Rudiger makes where it's like, okay, clearly he should do better than just getting it tangled under his feet and kicking it out. They see those mistakes because it's clear for anybody, even if they don't play the sport, if they don't know the sport. That's a clear mistake. But for Christensen, his mistakes are more technical, but they're just as bad as the mistakes Rudiger's making. But if you're not aware of the sport, if you don't know as much about it, if you're not really sure about positioning and all that, yeah, you're not going to catch those mistakes as much, but they're just as detrimental. They can cause just as many issues. So that's why I'm kind of like, I wanted to bring this up and just start a discussion, because I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed, is that Rudiger really, I felt like, was unfairly treated after the West Ham game. And I think, you know, Alonso, he also got the axe too. I feel bad for him because, again, he's not a left back, so I understand why he got taken out, but I also feel bad because it's not really something he can help. But, you know, unless we're willing to go to a back three, but then who do you take out of the midfield or out of the front three? It's hard right now because aside from Barkley, all of them are performing pretty well. And that the system is working out really well too. So it's a lot harder to say, yeah, let's just go to a back three. We can have Alonso and James as our wing backs, and then Dave and Zuma can be your flanking backs while you have either Rudiger or Christensen. And if they make mistakes, now you've got 2 defenders to cover for them. I don't know. It's hard to make that decision when you do have a system that's working really well. You just got some issues with some of the individuals in the defense. But yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I felt like it was something that needed to be addressed. Because I don't think anybody really touched on how unfair it was that Rudiger got lambasted for some of his mistakes, but Christensen just he's got to get better. You know, we got to do better than that. So, as far as what to do for the rest of the season, I would say Zuma and Rudiger is a good pair up. You know, they're both very athletic, both very physical, and both of them, I mean, I think they're a good team up in the back. I just don't think Christensen's going to cut it for the rest of the season. And honestly, like I said, Rudiger doesn't have West Ham games very often. So I feel like the fact that he had one, I don't think he's going to have another one for the rest of the season. I feel like he's going to want to make up for that game. So anyway, moving on from that though, something else a little frustrating I wanted to touch on was, of course, the Willian scenario because a lot of people are talking about it. I would be very frustrated if we don't sign him again. For another couple. Honestly, if he doesn't end his Chelsea career, or if he doesn't end his career at Chelsea, I'd be frustrated with that because he's shown constantly since the return. I went to say return and I tried to say restart, so it came out restart. But ever since the restart, I mean, he has shown why we need him in the team. Because he's just an all-around solid player. And he makes the team better from his work rate. The Palace game was the perfect example. Because he didn't have the perfect game against Palace. But I tell you what, any pass that he made that went to the other team, right back at him. I mean, he's such a hard-working player. And especially just to continuously do it too. It's not like he only works hard for like the first half. No, he has an engine on him. He can go the entire game and just run, run, run. But he works hard. If he loses the ball, he's going to work to win it back. And that's something very rare for attacking players. Most of the time, if they give it up, they get frustrated. They go, ah! But Willian, no, gives it away, turns it on, goes to win it back. Puts pressure on so they can't have an instant counterattack. It's very rare that you see him just turn off after giving the ball away. And that's so rare in a player. So I don't know why this is even a conversation. Like, I will say, I understand the idea of, okay, maybe not right now. Although, why not right now? Why not do this just to give a little, motivational boost to say, hey guys, we got Willian for, next 2 or 3 years. I mean, I feel like that would be good for the fans. But I can understand them wanting to say, kind of similar to what I think Lampard said about Abraham recently, contract talks right now are not necessary. Let's finish out the season, let's finish our job, then we'll discuss the future. Which I do understand. You want to make sure there are not a lot of distractions. But also, if it's starting to become a distraction, maybe let's go ahead and push it through. Because honestly, maybe the whole contract thing is why Abraham has not looked that up to it since we've returned. He hasn't really had the best of performances since we got back. So is the contract something we need to figure out with him before the end of the season? Who knows? But as far as Willian, it has to happen. I mean, the last thing you want to do is lose him for nothing. You don't even sell him, you just lose him. And then he ends up going to like Arsenal or Tottenham since he wants to stay in London. And now all of a sudden they've got a huge boost. Because Mourinho's going to pick him up. So I just really feel like that's something that needs to happen soon. That's something they need to get done soon because if the rumors keep circling, the rumors keep speculating, it could have a lot of mentally damaging results, in my opinion. Now on to something a bit brighter. Pulisic. Let's talk about Christian because he's done very well, and honestly, I think he's been the biggest bright spot since returning. Because, we've had some other players that have played very well since returning. I think Spilicueta has. I think Conte has, because he's finally being a defensive midfielder. Go figure. It's his best position. Mount's been very solid. Giroud's been solid. I think Barkley's been off and on. So, yeah, we've had some few good performances, some players that have put in a lot of solid performances. But I tell you what, I don't know what he did during the break, but he was out there training every day. Because he just came back strong. He came back just full of fire, full of fight. And it's helped so much. Because anytime he gets on the ball, something's probably going to happen. He's going to drive at players. He's going to try to create something. It doesn't always work out. But it works out more often than not, I'll tell you that. I mean, the penalties that he's won, the goals that he's put in, it's great to see that he's finally the player that we were expecting to get when we first signed him. And he has definitely brought just this energy to the front three that I know a lot of comparisons have been made to Hazard. Yeah, I can see why. He's definitely a different player than Hazard is. I feel like Hazard is a little bit stronger and is better. If somebody's going to put a challenge in, Hazard's going to stand up better to it than Pulisic, I believe. Mainly because, there's a lot of people like to make jokes because of that big Belgian booty. But, he has the same type of energy, just driving the team forward, the willingness to take on players in the box and try to draw a foul. It's very similar. So I think he's done very well. I think the defensive work rate that he has, too, is pretty good. He doesn't always work back to win it, but he's done it more often than not. that I've seen. So yeah, that's just it's a bright spot that I wanted to bring focus on because a lot of people have already been talking about it. But yeah, it's worth talking about because especially with some of the transfers we've got coming in, it's going to be interesting to see how Lampard's going to work with it because he's got a lot of options now. If we do manage to re-sign Willian, we've got Pedro. Well, Pedro's out. We got Willian, we got Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi still kind of on the fence. We'll have Werner up top. I feel like there's somebody else. Mount can play up there if need be. So, yeah, I feel like going into next season, it's going to be really interesting to see them all kind of battling for their positions. And especially, that's why getting Champions League is going to be so important because we're going to have a lot of games. And so if we have all of these players, it's going to be needed. Not everybody's not going to get all the time they want, but there's going to be a lot of chances to play. There's going to be a lot of games to play. And so we're going to need a deeper bench. That's one of the things that Man City has done very well ever since they got money is they've managed to get not just a first team, but also a very solid second team so they can compete on different levels of competition. Anyways, moving on from that, a couple of the players that I wanted to just talk about a little bit just because they do need to be talked about. First one is, of course, Kepa. And I've had my issues with him before. I definitely blasted him quite a bit last season. Still not very convinced. I don't know. Again, it's not necessarily that he's a terrible keeper, but he's not great. We need a great keeper. If we want to be a world-class club, we need a keeper that's worthy of it. And he's just kind of average. He's an average shot stopper, but that's about it. I mean, the Zaha shot, yeah, fantastic shot. Don't take anything away from Zaha. He struck it with real pace and menace. But a world-class keeper's saving that. Like, world-class keeper's not just going to and flop at it, which is what Kepa does more often than not. And that's my frustration is that we bought a keeper with it was worth so much. And he's not worth any of it. He's not nearly worth the price tag, and that's my frustration with it. If he were growing, if he were getting better, if we could see the improvement throughout the seasons and say, he's been here for almost 2 seasons now, if we could look at it and say, you know what, he's still not world class, but he's getting there. I can see him getting there. But it feels like the same issues I had with him when he first started, same issues I have now. Doesn't move his feet. He can't get anything that's outside of his general vicinity. Anytime a cross comes in, I don't have confidence that he's going to be on the end of it. The first West Ham goal, completely, I know people will probably say, oh, well, Spilicueta should be better in the air. Why is Kepa not in his net? Why does he go and then stop, and then now the header's coming in and he's not ready because he moved out of position? You're not going to get there. He doesn't read it well. He's not tall enough to beat players in the air. He's got too many liabilities. So why is it not being talked about don't worry guys, we're in the market. We're going to be looking. A lot of people are saying we need to be, but it doesn't sound like we're really looking right now. And that was the problem when we first got him. We didn't do enough for Courtois. We didn't try to get Courtois locked down. And then whenever it happened, we had to rush and say, oh crap, we got to go get a keeper now. And then we panic bought. And look at where we are. We've got a keeper that's just very average. So I'm frustrated again with the transfer people because they don't feel like they're doing their jobs well. And it's something where if Willian leaves and we keep Kepa, I'm going to have some serious issues. And there should be some people fired because of this. Because that's not good enough. Those are the decisions that can cost you a spot in the Champions League when it as tight as it is right now. If we had gone and gotten a better keeper, it would not be this close between us, Leicester, and Man U. So I'm just really frustrated with Kepa right now, and he's not doing anything to get me back on his side, if that makes sense. Aside from that, that's pretty much a lot of the main stories I wanted to talk about, and players too. But overall, I have enjoyed the return. I've enjoyed getting to watch them again and getting to play and all that, and seeing some of the players, that we got to see throughout the season starting to grow into it. Some of them are getting time now. I do like the fact that they have 5 subs because it does give some of the more fringe players a chance to get in and play. But yeah, overall, like it's been solid. We have a few liabilities that it does concern me because we've got some rough games coming up, and Man U has some pretty easy ones. So, yeah, we got Sheffield tomorrow. I know we've got Liverpool on the horizon. I think we've got Wolves on the last day. I feel like there's another one that's kind of they're not like top 6, but they are a solid team. Can't remember. I think it's Norwich. I think Norwich. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so not necessarily the bottom of the table, but also, I mean, we tend to be a club that whenever a club is down and out, whenever they're dealing with a lot of struggles and they're like, God, we just cannot find a way to get any points. Hey, come play us, because we seem to just want to give those clubs some points. So yeah, it's a little concerning as we approach the end of the season. Do I think we'll make Champions League? I think so. I think the fact that Man U and Leicester play each other on the last day will help us, because even if we do end up dropping a few points, I think that they will. Man U and Leicester, I feel like, are probably going to drop at least 2 points in their last few games, but also the last day, one of them is going to drop points, if not both of them. So that'll really give us a boost whenever we're fighting for that last place. And who knows? Maybe it won't even matter. Maybe all 3 of us will make it in the Champions League because Man City will get banned for next year. So, but that is definitely something we've got to do. We've got to make it in the Champions League. We've got to make top 4, because if we don't do that, then a lot of these players we're bringing in, yeah, great, we'll do well in the Europa League, but we're not going to draw some of the players that we're wanting to get for next year. Which I don't think we need to go get a whole lot of people, but we definitely need to get some world-class defenders in, or else we're going to struggle. So, but yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens. I don't think we've got the FA Cup because Man U just seems to be our Achilles heel this season, so the fact that we drew them means we probably won't see the final. If we do, fantastic, but yeah, they seem to be the bogey team for this season. Something about how Solskjaer sets up his team, I don't know. But anyways, all that being said, let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts about some of the situations and scenarios I discussed? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow if I can get a review in. Peace out.